Hello, everyone. This is Emily. We wanted to say thank you to some of our recent Patreon supporters: Carolyn Ingrid, Rhiannon J, Emily Blomer, Jackie Moore, Catherine Denny, Melissa S, Philip Nako, Marlena, Samantha Martin, and Tiffany. Thank you so much for supporting us. Remember, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, you can do so at patreon.com. On to the show.
Did you watch Missy Elliott's thing at the VMAs?
No, I have not watched the VMAs since Kanye took Taylor Swift's mic.
I mean, I didn't watch the VMAs, but I watched the Missy Elliott performances all over like Twitter and Facebook, and it was pretty cool.
Sure, Jan. Yeah, I heard about it. I haven't seen it. I'm officially off Facebook, so I definitely didn't see it there.
Missy Elliott, she still got it.
I'm sure she does. Didn't she have the chick who was in the original video do it with her?
Yeah. She brought that girl who's all grown up now.
All grown up.
Anyway, hey,
Hello.
Welcome to Tudor. I hardly know her. It's a podcast about the Tudors.
That we know.
So far.
Kind of.
Probably figured it out.
Yeah, sorta.
Yeah.
Is there something special about this episode, though?
It is.
It was just going to be like a boring one. We're going to talk about how people pooped back in Tudor times.
Well, that doesn't sound boring.
How's that boring?
Right?
I mean, if
It's
you're
fascinating.
curious,
We'll save that for
indoor
this.
plumbing did not exist.
We'll save that for the smell episode.
Oh, yeah. We have a
Wink.
requested episode about smells, and I'm like, that is the most interesting request, and now it has to happen. So stay tuned, because that's not today's episode.
We present you Smell-O-Vision.
Just stick your head in your garbage can while listening to this episode. No, today, our 100th episode.
How?
We've reached 100 people.
I don't fucking know.
We're still here and listening.
We didn't have like an unnumbered episode or anything like that.
No.
We just actually have 100 episodes.
Yeah, we actually have 100
You
episodes.
could try to like argue something like, "Oh, one of the episodes was a two-parter." Like back in the day when we did two-parters. With,
Jeff,
like, Anne
why are
Boleyn.
you fighting our own?
Let us have this.
Yeah, screw you.
Because I'm the producer guy. I'm the like technical person who has to get
No,
all
you're
analytical.
fired.
Okay.
Producers are assholes.
Hold on, my ears are hurting. Ugh. Okay, better. Okay, are you guys ready for the topic du jour?
Yeah. What do you talk about for your 100th episode?
Well,
When we're talking about history, we've talked about history this would have been what? 2 years? Over 2 years.
yeah,
We've been doing this damn thing.
yeah. No, so I was thinking about this long and hard. And,
I'm a child.
so I've been really thinking about it, and I wanted to make sure that it was a good episode, but there was just so much pressure, so I decided to say, fuck it, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who today.
Oh, cool.
No, I'm just kidding. Today, I thought that instead of the traditional Emily Teaches Garrett Jeffrey stuff, we discuss a little bit about Henry VIII and Henry VII and Mary the First and Elizabeth I, all them Tudors.
But not Edward.
But not Edward, because he was a meh.
Fuck him.
No, look, while he was busy being kidnapped, everybody else was doing shit. So I thought we'd discuss the impact of the Tudors, both historically, and Jeff brought up how we could talk about them culturally as well.
Yeah,
So-
because I think of, for the whole long line of royalty, they're like one of the small nuggets that like a lot of people associate still with like the like old royalty.
I like the
Old
back
I
when
like,
royalty was cool.
and chopping heads.
I mean, you had to be if you want to live.
I really like the idea of thinking about the Tudors as a nugget. Both Henrys would probably be upset about that.
Henry loved his nuggets.
Give me
Those
the
dank
nugs.
history nugs that were just dropping on you.
Henry VIII would totally love our podcast.
want my dank nuggets.
Except for like when we make fun of him.
No, he'd be so. You know what? He'd be more offended that we considered him Kanye the Eighth, and not Kanye West the Henry VIII of today. Like, I think that he'd be totally fine being the center of a whole podcast. So guys, I just, pulled up a couple things to get us started on this conversation. I feel like, first of all, it'd be remiss for us to not talk about how Henry VIII created his own fucking religion. Which,
That's true.
Then if you think about it, led to the Puritans, which then led to America and
USA.
racism
USA.
and genocide and burning witches.
Yay!
Hooray!
Yeah, it just sounds like America.
Thanks a lot, Henry VIII.
Yeah, so because of
White
Henry
men.
VIII, we burnt wishes.
It is Henry VIII's fault. No, it's probably not fair to say that he led to the rise of Puritanism. He was just kind of, I feel like there was already a spark of the,
I mean, how many other kings actually created their own religion?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Probably not that many that I know of.
So the thing when you're royalty and you're in a position of power like that, you always want to be remembered for something. And what better way to be remembered than by creating your own damn religion?
In order to get laid. Like,
Exactly.
let's keep that at the heart of all of this.
Which
Henry
is,
VIII did it because he wanted a very different wife.
It's funny if
And-
historically that's what he's more known for, even though really like, most people are going to remember this guy. Like, isn't that do with all the wives?
Oh, yeah.
That's like
totally.
what he's going to always be remembered for.
Well, yeah, that's what people remember him for, but I feel like the impact is much bigger than that.
Oh,
Because I
God,
feel
yeah.
like being known for the wives is more of a cultural thing, and changing religion. I mean, look at all the wars that were caused because of those religions. I mean, we could do a whole podcast about religion-based war, but if you think about it, Henry VIII went from hardcore Catholic, being named the defender of the faith by the Pope, to I'm in charge now, bitch.
I am God now.
I am the captain now.
He's going to the Pope. Look at me. Look at me. I am the Pope now.
So, yeah, I feel like, I mean, obviously that's a very obvious one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But fun fact, did you know, and I probably said this on the podcast before, which case, sorry, but the guys don't really listen, so this is for them.
Huh?
After Henry VIII, nobody in the royal family has been divorced until the current Queen Elizabeth's sister got divorced in the 60s.
What'd she get divorced for? I feel like we've talked about this. This sounds very familiar.
I don't know. I haven't watched enough of The Crown to know why she got divorced from her husband, but probably she
scandalous.
didn't like him.
Probably
usually-
just normal reasons now.
That's like the core of divorce. Didn't like him. Sometimes that.
I didn't know if there was like a more specific reason. It was like, well, he was cheating on her, or
I do not know. What
he said that the crown doesn't look good on her head. Or...
The Crown season 3 comes this November, so I'll tell you the answer to that in November. I could Google it, but this isn't
So,
the Mountbatten Windsor podcast.
She probably just didn't live long enough. But so Princess Diana and why is name going blank? Charles.
Shecky.
They never divorced or
Oh,
separated.
honey.
I mean,
Oh, honey.
I know they're like a
Oh,
whole other,
honey.
they're a whole other can of worms to open.
All right, I'm gonna quickly pop the top on this can of worms and give you a 3-minute lowdown on the Princess Di Charles issue.
God, this would be a great episode on its own.
Okay. God,
mean-
it really would. Okay. Like 2 minutes. You can time me. Ready and go. So, Princess Diana was 19 when she met Prince Charles, who was like closing in on 30, and Prince Charles was involved with a certain woman named Camilla who wasn't fit to be a royal wife. So he married Princess Diana because he basically had to. Princess Diana was like, yeah, I'm 19. I got a handsome prince who's courting me. So they got married. Prince Charles was cheating on her almost instantly, literally on the honeymoon, texting Camilla.
Oh my
And then
God.
Yes. So basically there was a whole bunch of like Charles being shitty to Diana, Diana trying to raise her children away from the public view of kids belong to the country, which, that's shitty. So she tried to give them as normal a life as possible. That's why she became part of the People's Princess and all that. So they cheated on each other back and forth and back and forth. And then there was something called Camilla Gate. And essentially, Charles texted Camilla something about wishing he had been the tampon inside of her vag. They ended up getting separated and then divorced. And then she died.
So divorced.
Beheaded,
died?
No beheading, but it was.
I didn't know she got beheaded in that.
No, she actually in the car crash. So the car crashed in a Parisian tunnel, I believe. And what
that
happened?
sounds right.
So interestingly, when somebody opened the door to the back car, she was on the seat of the car, not the seat, I'm sorry, the floor of the car, and she was speaking and everything, and she was saying that they needed to check the driver because she didn't think he was okay. So she was transported to the hospital alive, and then she had a sudden cardiac arrest or something along those lines and died.
Ooh.
Yeah.
2 minutes. Nice.
Told ya.
Wow.
But also,
Told ya.
I was trying not to interrupt you when you were. At one point, I was thinking
The tampon thing, right? The tampon thing?
I was thinking more of the when she said, "I had this handsome prince." I'm like, who thought Charles was handsome?
I don't know.
Especially, it's just amazing. Thank God his children looked more like her as they grew up.
Oh yeah.
Though I will say, the oldest,
William?
he's starting to get a little Charles in his old age.
King Bill. He's gonna be King Bill.
He's getting the
Yeah.
cool, balding hair, and
Yeah.
he's
So, sorry, that was
I don't know any of the royals. Who's the one that was implicated in that Epstein bullshit recently?
Andrew. That was Prince Charles's brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
but,
So that was a big
but that
digression.
means- oh yeah, no. So you're right. Then it was his aunt that was the first one that got divorced, and then he would be divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well, his brother also divorced. Andrew was married to Duchess something Ferguson. Everybody calls her Fergie.
That's just fascinating. That seriously, royalty lasts since Henry VIII all the way to.
Okay, but
today?
here's the thing: Henry VIII was an anomaly.
Oh yeah, no.
in his time period for getting the
He
divorce
literally
because
had to create a whole church to be able to divorce.
yeah, but if you also think about it, okay, so he didn't really get a divorce. It was considered an annulment, and that just meant that basically the marriage never happened. So previously, if people didn't want to be with their wives, they would, if you were a wealthy man and you didn't want to be with your wife, you would basically send your wife off to a country home that you didn't care about enough to visit. So you were still married, you just hated each other from a distance. Now you could still get an annulment if it was needed for whatever reason. One of the French kings actually got an annulment because his wife wasn't giving him children. So he was like, see, she's barren. You need to give me a divorce. And the Pope was like, okay, here you go. And then
So a manufactured defect in the marriage.
okay, but then the wife went to England and married an English king and had 20,000 children.
Oh, yes. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. So I want to say, I'm pretty sure that was Eleanor of Aquitaine, and I'm so sorry if I don't know that. But that's not what this podcast is about. It's the Tudor podcast, motherfuckers. So yeah, if you think about it, Henry VIII was really an anomaly, and I feel like so much of what happened in his reign in relation to his wives was accidents that just kept hitting each other. It was an accident really that Arthur died, and then that Henry became king, and then that Catherine and Henry couldn't have children besides Mary, who lived, and then that the Pope was facing his own political crises at home that required him to not be able to give Henry the divorce. It's just so much shit piling on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Martin Luther and his 95 Theses, and that was kind of burning around the edges of Europe, was this new Protestantism, and Henry almost latched onto that as an excuse, but his religion was still Catholic. It was just, I am the king of the Catholics.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not Catholic.
Catholic light. All the
Now
all the
main
religion,
reason-
half the guilt.
So the main reason Henry broke away from the church and created his own was because he wanted to get that annulment or divorce or whatever. He wanted to get married,
Oh,
and he wanted to be king of this religion. He wanted to be the end all be all.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody else like immediately benefit from this break?
Yeah, like every Protestant in England.
Okay.
Because like I said, that fire was kind of burning around the edge of Europe, and it was seeping into England. And when we talked about the Thomas More episode and how he was burning what he considered heretical books and taking people to the Tower to be executed for their heretical thinking, heretical, passing on of the English Bible, it wasn't that big of a thing at that point. But Henry VIII kind of gave Protestantism the foot up it needed to really become a religion, as opposed to just the embers within England that were kind of slowly burning.
Mm-hmm.
So
He stoked the fire.
yeah, he really did. He stoked the fire because it was only when so he broke from the church, but he was still mostly Catholic. When Cromwell became super powerful, he pushed that Protestantism up another notch, and then Henry kind of tried to bring it back down a little bit. So it kind of remained pretty Catholic. I'd say like 80% Catholic, really. And then Edward became king, and we talked about in his episode how he was like a zealot for Protestantism, and it was because of the way he was raised. The people who were in charge of his education were uber Protestants, and the same happened with Elizabeth. So Henry really kind of built that platform that Edward started a bigger foundation on, and then Elizabeth was able to encourage up. And then Mary, meanwhile, had tried to bring the Catholic Church back into, or rather bring England back into the Catholic fold. So, but then, that also led to Scotland, and, England and Scotland were always butting heads, and the Scottish were having their own fights about Protestant versus Catholicism, and, they wanted the Protestant lords were in charge, and they didn't want, like, Mary, Queen of Scots in charge, who was Catholic, and it led to, I feel like a lot of the Scottish were just looking for excuses to, like, fight, but, part of that ultimately led to the unification of Scotland and England. So they didn't have one parliament until like the 1600s at some point. Mm-hmm. But it was still Henry VII's greats that had finally united Scotland and England under one king.
Now I have two more questions kind of related to this topic of Henry's break from the church.
Yeah.
So one, it kind of ties into like other immediate benefits, but like less from like the religious politics of it all, but like the average man, the common man, like like the average common Protestant, your everyday Protestant walking down the street, Johnny Protestant as we would call him. Would he was there like an uptick in like divorce rates or annulments, or like people saying like, well, the king did it, so if I'm under the king's religion, like I should be able to do it too, right?
Well, interestingly, that was part of what was upsetting most of the women of the kingdom when Henry was trying to divorce Catherine. They were like, if the king can divorce a woman who has been the most loyal, steadfast, loving woman and an amazing queen, then what's to stop our husbands from leaving us?
So it's kind of like when Brad and Jennifer Aniston broke up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Interestingly, statistically, did you know that you are more likely to get divorced if your friends divorce? I think it's kind of like oh, God, he's free. She left that piece of shit. I can leave my piece of shit, too.
Oh, fuck, I have a divorced friend.
Oh, we got to go out and drink.
I mean, at this point, like, doesn't everyone at least know one couple that's been
Yeah,
divorced?
that's why I'm
My
like,
dad's been divorced twice, so.
oh, Garrett, you're screwed.
I think wife number 3 is the one. He's really figured it out this time.
He calls you after this episode. Garrett, I don't know how to tell you this, but
God, I hope not.
I'm on the prowl.
I'd probably hang out with my stepmom more, to be honest.
I'd listen to that podcast.
Hey, it's Garrett and his stepmom hanging out. God, my dad's kind of an idiot, isn't he?
This sounds like something from the 90s. And then there's a romantic twist where they end up hooking up.
Oh God.
Oh God, no.
What?
So the other thing I wanted to ask is, could you give me like an idea of like the next, I'd say maybe 100, 200 years, if you can, of what England would have looked like if Henry did not break from the church?
Oh, I like this. Let's play with this. Actually, I don't think we'd have to go 100, 200 years to learn about this. So, all right,
We're
let's
seeing like the long-reaching ramifications of what would happen, like once Henry is dead and gone.
All right.
Marvel's
Well,
What If.
here's the thing. We need to then learn a little bit about the great, oh God, there was a revolution in England where they beheaded the king, and it was, oh God, it was the English Civil War. And it kind of happened because a Catholic king came to power. Oh God, I need the English Civil War in like 12 words or less. All right. According to Wikipedia, English Civil War was a series of civil wars and political machinations between parliamentarians and royalists, principally over the manner of England's governance. So the first and second wars pitted the supporters of King Charles I against the supporters of the Long Parliament, while the third saw fighting between supporters of King Charles II and supporters of the Rump Parliament. I think it actually had to do with, it did have to do with their ruling, but I think religion was a big factor as well. So once again, this is not the Charles the First and or Second podcast, so I can't really give you much information about it. But I think the same thing would have ended up happening, honestly, where Protestants ended up coming to power into Parliament, and they would have butted heads with a Catholic king. Not necessarily ending in an execution, but I think ultimately the kingdom would have ended up still being Protestant.
All right.
But now I'm curious. Guys, what do you think? If you're English especially.
Well, yeah, because like when they got to Elizabeth was like,
Yeah?
all Catholic.
No.
Sorry.
Mary.
I thought that was, no, Mary. So Mary was the one that was all still stick with the church and go.
Mary loved the Catholics. Elizabeth was Protestant, but she was like, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to let this go.
Well, especially since I'm kind of the result of all this happening.
Oh my God, Elizabeth is such a middle child, guys. No, wait, seriously. She doesn't want to get involved in anybody's drama.
That doesn't sound
please don't
anything
put attention
like
on me.
you.
No, I don't like getting involved in people's drama. I just like listening to it.
Well, I'm saying, like, aren't you more or less the middle child?
Oh, I'm dead center, son.
Yeah, you're literally
Oh,
the middle
shit.
child.
Yeah.
We're both the middle children of our families.
Yep. We are uber middle children. But we don't get involved in drama. We just watch it. So when the Protestants were like killing everybody and the Catholics were killing everybody, Elizabeth was like, just let them do what they do. They're good. They're fine. It's
I'm
cool.
just gonna go over here.
Yeah. Could somebody bring me a wine? So yeah, that's kind of sort of an answer to your question, Garrett, but I like the what if thinking.
Thank you.
Good call. Well, I was doing a little bit of research for this podcast. You want to know what else I discovered happened because of Henry VIII? The Royal Mail was founded, which was the first national postal service. It was called the King's Post, and it was devised by Sir Brian Tuke. And it commanded all the towns to have a fresh horse available for anyone carrying mail from the Tudor court. And in 1635, it was open to the general public. So,
Cool.
Actual Henry VIII fact, guys.
We don't do a whole lot of those here.
Henry VIII was the
GBPS, Great Britain Postal Service.
There you go. Great British Postal Service. God, let's think. What else? What else do you think? Jeff, you were kind of talking culturally about the Tudors' impact?
Well, like growing up, before I met Emily, like who told me more about the Tudors and everything, a lot of times my image of anything royalty-wise that wasn't the present-day queen or any of her dad, anything like that, my image always of like royal queens was Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I didn't really know Victoria existed until probably college.
She gonna be upset about that.
Yeah, especially since the only reason I know who Victoria was because of Doctor Who.
Oh, very nice.
Whereas, or even like Henry VIII. Henry VIII is the one I always visualized when I thought of like the kings. Like I couldn't probably name any other kings of England besides Henry and Elizabeth. And honestly, I didn't know Mary was a queen at all at the time either.
Yeah, but you knew about Bloody Mary, right?
I didn't know that's where it originated from.
Yeah, same
I always
here.
like to me growing up.
I just thought it was a dead chick named Mary.
Bloody Mary to me was a ghost.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you always see you see way more movies address and shows address more like the Tudor era kind of look of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's more inspiration. So you see Queen Elizabeth all over the place. Like I was just reading up about Shakespeare in Love, how like there's Judi Dench in that, but then that same year, then Kate Blanchett was nominated for doing Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
So you think about like things like that, or like Blackadder. I've been watching that, and like they had a whole season.
Blackadder.
They had a whole season where it was during the time of Elizabeth, and they actually had Elizabeth in the show,
Yeah.
played by Miranda Richardson.
God, she's so funny.
And it's just weird to me to think about if any other king, because like I couldn't even guess. I had to think about who was the king at the time of our American Revolution.
George the Third.
Yeah, I would never have guessed off the top of my head.
Oh man.
I mean, luckily there's like four
Was it
names.
King George?
Would you have known?
King George?
Okay, you didn't hear me whisper it, so I'm gonna assume you knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah, I did.
Good for you. Jeff's just dumb.
For me, it's I mean, there's four names I have to go through to hopefully I'll get the name right. It's either Henry, George, John, Charles.
He's got a point.
That is a fact.
Now you started telling me numbers. Hell, I'm lost after that point.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right, Jeff. It's not something I've ever really thought about was how much is pulled from the Tudor era when it comes to like entertainment.
Because
they don't do that to that same caliber with very many other events.
Like if you ever watch anything about the American Revolution, how often they actually show George in any movie?
No, never.
Yeah, because he's always over on like they don't.
He's over the sea.
Yeah, he's not in the battles. He's not out there at the front lines.
No,
he's overseas. Like yes, fight for me over that land way over there.
This kind of starts another question though. Like I'm sure you guys have noticed that there are historical time periods where entertainment tends to focus. And I feel like we could really pick out like 5, and this is from an American perspective, so I'm sure it's really different in other countries. So listeners, let us know what your top 5 events are. But from an American perspective, the time periods that I see so much entertainment based around is World War II.
Yes. Civil War.
The Civil War was a trend back like in the 90s for some reason. Everybody wanted to talk about the Civil War.
So many movies and shows about it.
So
there weren't there?
There were. So
was it what's one? Gods and Generals.
Gods and Generals. Gettysburg.
Blue vs. Gray.
Yeah. Glory.
Yeah, just tons. So then I'd say the Tudors. Rome, ancient Rome.
Oh God, yeah.
What else could we say? Probably the American Revolution. I feel like
there's a lot about that era.
So I wonder what it's like in other countries, because I'm kind of upset that there's not a huge focus on a certain time in like Imperial China or Imperial Japan.
Well, and if there is anything like almost ancient Japan based, it's a lot of the Japanese films, like martial arts films.
Yes, yeah.
Where they're kind of being based in that time period of where everyone was like, oh, we got the group of monks that all like practice martial arts and fight each other.
So what do you think it is about the Tudors that makes this such an interesting time period?
I think it's because they're so dramatic. Like you have Henry, like we talk about Henry VIII as Kanye West, and like why do we focus on Kanye West so much? Because he's always in the news. he was always in the news doing something.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Crazy or just out of nowhere would do something like ridiculous. It's like how it was for Henry VIII. Imagine living that time period of like, what's Henry doing this year? We talk about just have 1 year,
Yeah.
1536, of how much stuff happened with him just in that 1 year.
I mean, it's all the headline. Like, you know, the thing everyone knows about Henry VIII is he got married a lot, he had a lot of wives, and he killed a decent amount of them.
Do you think it's also because the Tudor time period was so short? The Tudors only reigned for a little over 100 years, 120-ish years.
I think it's more like, oh, this guy was crazy. He married all these women and then he killed them. Like, that's kind of an interesting story.
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that the family,
Like-
the Tudor family line from Henry VII to Queen Elizabeth, you had such notable royalty ruling.
Yeah.
Because you feel like with the other kings and queens, they don't really have well-known
No, that's true, yeah.
successors or
Because if
anything
you
like
think of the
that.
Plantagenets, you've got William the Conqueror, who I don't even know. William. No, I don't think he even was really a Plantagenet.
The fact that you go from Henry VII to Henry VIII
Yeah,
to
people know of,
Bloody
like-
Mary and then Queen Elizabeth is like
Yeah.
crazy to think about. Like the 4 in a row are very major, important.
Well, Henry VII, I
Is not
feel like
as
his
much-
importance is really just tied to the beginning of his
Yeah, he started
dynasty.
it, but then
yeah.
but isn't he, like you said, he was one of the last kings to take.
He was the last king to take the crown through conquest.
Yes.
Yeah. So, no, I'd say it's really people remember Henry VIII for his wives and Elizabeth I for being
Well,
a badass.
that
long
so
reigning
it's kinda
monarch.
Like, so a lot of people probably think of Victoria because
She reigned forever.
she reigned forever, and she looks iconic. Like you can think of her in her little dress with
The tiny little hat.
the tiny little hat on her head and the
Tiny
black
little
dress.
crown.
Yeah, and then same thing with Elizabeth. Like everyone can visualize what Elizabeth looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
The big golden dress with the veil around her and the very pale red hair. Same with Henry VIII. Henry VIII only looked like that
Huge,
towards the end of his
fat.
life.
Yeah.
But everyone thinks that. Everyone has
Yeah.
that image of the big fat bearded guy with a turkey leg in
Well,
his
if I
hand.
asked you to picture George III,
I visualize a guy in frilly foo-foo white hair,
very accurate.
but that's about it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think part of the reason is also that there's still so much that's not known about the Tudors.
You can have all sorts of gossip still to this day, especially with all the wives of what was going on, what really happened, what was really going on with Anne Boleyn. Did she
Oh,
really
yeah.
have, 6 fingers?
Yes, that's still a question.
and
that's
also,
around.
like, an entire religion propped up due to, like, the split with Henry. Like,
Right.
the people who are, Protestants, like, they kind of have to look back on that as, like, a major historical point in their religion.
Right.
Right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But then also there's a little bit back to the cultural aspect. Not only is it that we have a lot of stuff nowadays that still goes back to the Tudors. I mean, we're just one of plenty of podcasts about the Tudors. We are, I'm constantly recommending books. There's a never-ending variety of films and TV shows, just more and more and more and more coming out about the Tudors. And but we also have to remember the Tudors kind of ushered in almost the Renaissance. They kind of brought the Renaissance to England. Henry VIII, he did not have a Renaissance education. He had a rough education. He was on the road. He was fighting to not be killed by the other kings of England. But Henry VIII, he had a very educated. He was taught in Latin and Greek, and he loved reading and music and dancing. And he brought all of those things to the English
There was way more
court.
arts brought into
Uh-huh.
them.
And then things like Shakespeare flourished under Elizabeth because she was a huge patron of the arts. So, it's possible that even any other king, let's say Henry VIII had not won the Battle of Bosworth and the Plantagenets continued to reign, I think that they could have still had a cultural impact. I just think it may have veered in a different direction based on the interests of those kings. So, yeah, it's just interesting. Life without Shakespeare. What would that have been like?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, also, that reminds
I don't
me.
want to live in that world.
That reminds me. I read about a website where you can get Shakespeare, like his books or his plays and all that stuff, plays and sonnets. It will show you the New Age English translation of his shit. I'm like, Jesus.
It just plays Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann movie.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
That's what it should be.
All right, everybody, this is your homework. Go home and watch that movie. Find it somewhere.
Do you bite your thumb at me, sir? No, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir. My favorite part of that movie is how the guns are called like swords.
Yes, I was literally thinking that right now.
Yep.
I fucking love
'Cause
that
they're
aspect.
like pointing guns at each other, like, put your sword down. Wait, what?
They actually have swords.
They just attach a knife to a gun.
Oh my god, it's Squall's sword gun from Final Fantasy. Yeah, from Final Fantasy VIII.
That's what I was gonna say.
That, or it's a knife gun from
With this gun
Knife
and
gun.
this knife,
from Metal Gear Solid 3.
I can make a knife gun.
It all comes back to video games for me and Jeff.
It always does.
Of course.
I'm trying to...
It's just weird. It's just that's part of the thing about, like, when as a kid. Also, I watched the cartoon I brought up before, Hysteria. Like, they have a whole episode that's just focused on the Tudors.
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived.
Or you think about Greensleeve, how, like,
Yeah.
how you think of old time royalty, anything that's like played like in majority
They
of
always
movies.
do with the green sleeves.
Yep.
So here's a question that I have for you guys. I'm pert happily. Here's a question that I'm going to ask. So, do you think that the Tudors pushed through a lot of these events, or do you think that many of these events would have happened eventually? So, for example, what Garrett brought up with the Protestantism becoming, well, yeah, kind of. Garrett brought up what would have happened if Henry VIII stayed Catholic. Same thing. Like Elizabeth created, with her privy chamber and her trusted advisors, she created the spy network. Do you think eventually, though, something similar would have formed? Or do you think it just would have been so different from what Elizabeth formed that it's almost negligible, not worth talking about?
It's like the butterfly effect.
It kind of is.
I think some form of it would have maybe happened, but not to quite as memorable as probably what they did.
Yeah.
You talk about even the idea, like, maybe Shakespeare wouldn't have existed. He could have, but probably not to the caliber he is today. Like, people might still talk of him, like, oh, yeah, there was this guy back in the 1500s who wrote some plays, and we know of him, but not to the point, like, we study him regularly.
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh wouldn't have a career.
Oh, poor Kenneth Branagh. What? Oh, God, let's not even go there.
I don't want to imagine that world.
We wouldn't have Thor. It would be a dark world indeed.
Oh.
So yeah, no, that's a good point. I wonder if so what are the things that you think that definitely would have, so let's name just a couple of the things that the Tudors have affected. So religion. So do we think religion would have changed to the degree it did without Henry VIII or Henry VII or Elizabeth I or the Protestants?
It probably wouldn't have, like, Protestantism probably wouldn't have spread as much, because, I mean, if it's good enough for the king, it's good enough for you, right? Like, if you're not believing what the Catholic Church is selling you, like, well, the king, it's good enough for the king. Like, maybe he's got something
That's
to
just
it. You know?
You have a Catholic Church that has so much power over people at that time. To then have the king question that religion can have a major effect on people.
You also have to remember that the kings in other countries were doing it too.
See, it's more like, would England has been affected as much?
Well, so I guess if we look at France as a parallel, because France had a bunch of Protestants in it, but the king remained a Catholic, and they resisted the change to Protestantism to the point where there was a huge massacre on St. Bartholomew's Day in the late 1500s. So, I guess you could kind of see them as a parallel, but if they'd stayed Catholic. So maybe the people would have changed over, but it could have been a lot more violent in its efforts to maintain a Catholic monarch versus a Protestant country. Interesting. What are the other things? So culture. How do we think So Shakespeare, I do kind of agree that if they hadn't had Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, Henry VIII's love of books kind of leading the way to Elizabeth being, and the same with her mother. Her mother was also very influential. So we probably wouldn't have had Shakespeare to the degree we have Shakespeare, but what about plays and just writing in general? Because we had the first printing press was invented in the 1400s, right? So we probably still would have had printing press. I just wonder what would have happened with, like, I feel like literary endeavors still would have happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I could still see that. Because that was a major, like, just evolution in, to be able to have multiple copies of something for anyone to be able to get access to. Because if you if you owned a book, you had to be extremely wealthy to be able to afford a book that was hand copied.
Yep. Yes, you did.
So I think that was more of an industrial kind of thing that helped affect that. Whereas I will say the Tudors probably helped the fact that they were so pro, like, literature and arts and everything to kind of, it's like how people follow celebrities' trends.
Oh, God.
How
Oh, my
people-
God. Can you imagine Henry
people
VIII's Instagram?
Yeah, people
Check out my cod piece today, ladies.
Yeah, people will see celebrities today endorsing always products and whatnot, and are like, oh, I should try that too. That
All
sounds
right. I
same-
kind of want to create a Henry VIII Instagram now.
It's gotta have been done before, right?
I don't know.
I mean, how many things can you actually put pictures of?
Well, what if I just do a Tudor I hardly know her Instagram, and then I do it from the perspective of Henry VIII?
Okay. We said that we hired on this guy named Hank as our social media guy.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
And he could be like, go and hang out with the new bae today. Check out this piece of jewelry I bought her. Oh my God. Henry VIII's Instagram would be
It's like, oh my
baller.
God, is that Anne's? Don't worry about it.
Oh me, is that?
Oh me. I love it. Now I want that. Okay. I'm just imagining this Instagram.
You're actually now thinking of this, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't have the time to do it.
A good idea is a good idea.
I know, I just don't have the time to do it. Well, that's it. Let's be done.
Oh, that was sad sounding.
That's all you got for us? Well, and my problem is, like, my memory is absolute shit and it's just hard for me to remember stuff that Emily's talked about. So she's like, oh yeah, remember when this guy did this? And I'm like, yes, of course I remember. I remember bits and pieces.
Totally spies.
Which I feel absolutely bad about.
Don't feel bad about it. I know you're listening.
But there are some that just captivate me so hard. Like the Thomas More episode was great.
I liked that one.
That was so fucking good.
Wait, let's do, in honor of our 100th episode, I think we should do our favorite moments.
Of like just the moments of history.
No, of our podcast.
Of our podcast.
Yeah, so
Yes, this is the self-masturbatory part of the podcast. What is it not, though?
I don't know. This whole podcast is so people pay attention to us.
Notice me.
All right.
We were those kids in high school.
I'm a middle child.
Yeah, me too.
I was the oldest.
Yeah, Gary, we can tell. Ugh. Okay, wait. One of my favorite moments, definitely Kanye the Baeighth.
Oh, yeah.
Just unforgettable.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. 'Cause we've had so many moments where like we just bust out laughing at something ridiculous we
I'm
said.
trying to remember all the old like movie and TV pitches that I had. I just keep.
Oh my god.
There are
Our-
too many.
All of our pitches were so great.
Oh, there are way
Between
too
Between the
many.
reality shows to a sitcom.
This is incredibly self-masturbatory. I love it.
Well, our listeners can also tell us what their favorite moments were, or
I would love to hear what your guys' favorite
yeah,
Tudor I hardly know her moments
yeah.
are.
Tell us what your favorite Tudor hardly know her moment is.
I'm glad that King Nat is still stuck around to this
Oh
end.
God, I'll
'cause
never
King
forget
Nat,
King Nat.
absolutely.
That was like our original, like, we were just...
We were dying. Fuck, that was good.
That was the original podcast meme.
It really was. All right, Jeff and Gary, No, Garrett, you have
the
a
Bastard
favorite
by
name.
Bessie Blount was one of my favorite moments too.
Bastard by Bessie Blount. Fuck,
Smell
that
like
was
a
funny.
bastard today.
That was a good one too. God damn it, we are fucking
All the fan art
hilarious.
that's come out from some of the dumb shit we've said, I love it.
Yeah,
Just
you guys,
absolutely love
you
it.
guys fucking rock.
I will say my favorite, more historical moment was still the guy being drowned in wine.
Of course.
That and all the
I-
cures for like everything, like putting in a fox hair on your head to help you
Yes.
cure baldness, things like that.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite things. Just cover your hair in grease and then put fox hair on it, and lo and behold, you are Donald Trump. Let's see. Oh, somebody tweeted a funny thing to us. If you're doing a history exam this year and you're struggling to remember the fate of Henry VIII's wives, I find that this little poem helps. Died, 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 died.
I love it.
It's a good one. Well,
Yeah, I've just had a lot of great memories with this podcast, and I can't wait to make more.
It's just weird to think we're at 100 already.
More.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's
It's weird to
awesome.
think that people are actually listening to us and still listening to us. There's a lot of people who are not still listening to us.
That's
I go
okay.
back and read some of the reviews on iTunes. I'm like, oh, they love us. Oh, this person fucking hates us. I
Yeah.
know we complain about the reviews every once in a while, and I'm sorry that we do that. It sounds whiny.
Oh, whatever.
I don't actually really look at
I've
them.
stopped reading them.
We'll do like an extra bonus episode where we just like dramatically read some of the worst ones.
That would be so funny.
Bonus episode
Oh my god, yes.
on our Patreon, which we're part of.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got that Patreon
Guys,
going. I keep forgetting we have a Patreon, which is
we-
probably not a good thing.
No. We just chose the first book for our book club. Hey ya. So our first book is going to be, let me find the name of it, The Fifth Queen. So if you want to join us in our book club, you can just go and become a member of Patreon, and I'll add you as a member to our Slack group that is dedicated just to this book club. So we're all going to read the book, and in about a month or so, we're going to get together and discuss said book.
So while you're in the Slack, you can like talk about the book, like as you're reading through, right? Okay.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. It is your thing. So
At some point, we've got to have our Q&A session
yes.
thing as well.
Yeah, we're going to set
Correct.
that up for our Q&A session. We'll get that arranged to happen in the next 2 weeks or so. And
Remember, the most important thing is if you want any of our bonus episodes, it's only $1.
yeah,
Yep.
every tier gets the bonus episodes. And I think that's it. So also
Yeah.
find us on Facebook at Tudor I Hardly Know Her. Find us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her. Email us at tudorknowher.com and
You can always contact us on any of those ways of
Yeah.
any you have questions you're curious about,
episode
our thoughts?
suggestions.
suggestions.
Like-
You can call me at 574. Never mind.
No. Garrett's
Um,
phone number is 8675309.
his social security number, if you want, is this.
8675309.
But then also, if you just want to like just tell us like our favorite moments in celebration of our 100th episode.
Yeah, this is pretty baller, guys.
I'd do like another like mini actual episode where we like go through like some of your guys' moments. We read them aloud. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll think of some shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Because
you guys.
really, like the fact that we reached 100 is mainly because of you guys, anyways.
Oh, it's
if
totally
if one
because
gets
of you
sappy,
guys.
it's like we did not think when we did episode 1 that this many people would be listening to us. Emily would have this many interactions with other crazy Tudor files out there
I
on the
love you
line,
guys.
and the fact that like some of you get excited that a new episode comes out.
Yeah, you guys are awesome, and I
And
love.
thank you for telling your friends and family and
Yes.
just anybody about it and just spreading. Like lately, we've been getting more people like finding the podcast. And
Yep.
it's just fantastic. And so many of you guys have reached out and said, well, I've got this great idea for an episode, or hey, I'd like to do a collaboration with you guys. And if we haven't gotten back to you on something like that, please don't be upset. We get a decent amount of messages and we have busy lives sometimes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is our hobby, not our job.
I know.
Mhm.
We wish it was our job.
Ugh, I'm going back
Wink.
to school. I'm gonna get a master's in history.
Yeah.
teach people this shit
So
forever.
thank you so much for listening
Yeah.
to us,
This one's to
to our
you
tangents, our rants, and our unnecessary comments.
and our
Or
king
planned
napping.
tangents.
Oh God! And with
You're
that,
fucking welcome.
divorced, beheaded, died.
Divorce, beheaded, survived.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. 100 episodes are in the can.